Today we have a unique episode. No guests, but it dives into a topic that relates to faith, family, and mental health. School shootings. This is not a political discussion, it's just the observation of two concerned parents who just face the fear of horror of a situation like this and knows that this topic is affecting all of us. I'm Natty.
I'm Veda.
And we are here to thrive.
Today's episode is a sad one as we discuss some of the most notorious school shootings in modern history. Our goal is not to sensationalize these tragedies, but to understand the factors that led to them, particularly the mental health struggles of the perpetrators. We'll be exploring the shooter's background, but without mentioning their names. That's because we know that they seek notoriety, and this is not what this is about.
We will refer to them as shooters and separate them by the event in which they participated.
Yeah.
School shootings in the United States have been of significant concern, especially in the recent years. According to Statista, between 2021 and 2022, there were 327 shootings in the United States, leading to 81 deaths and 269 injuries. I'm wrong. I got it. To 1375 shootings that included 515 deaths and 1,161 injuries. Most of these shootings, 61% of them, were in high school, 23% in elementary school, and 12% in middle school. Most of the shootings were in parking lots or areas outside the entrances, but that was between 28% in the parking lots and 20% at the school entrances. We live in Georgia, so we wanted to look at that data. And in Georgia, in 2023 alone, there were 10 incidents in the state. No injuries or casualties, but we know that changed in 2024. So let's start with the most famous one that we know occurred, and it was Columbine. That was on April 20th of 1999, when two perpetrators went to Columbine High School, both with severe mental illnesses that were detailed in their writings and behaviors, and went into a killing spree that ended with 13 people dead and 20 wounded.
Displayed signs of consistent signs of psychopathy, including lack of empathy, manipulation, and a major desire for control. In his writings, it was revealed that he had deep-seated anger and hatred towards society. Not one person, the whole society. As well as he had a superiority complex and often fantasized about violence and widespread destruction. Now, the second one, the second shooter, they were more of an introvert. So this let me know that the second shooter was a follower of the first shooter.
That's how
because the first shooter was like the alpha. The second shooter was introverted and showed major signs of severe depression. And in his writings reflected a sense of despair, loneliness, self-loathing, unlike the first shooter.
Now, here's one of the things I can tell you about this particular shooting that alerted me is their mental health issues were documented. That first shooter, the one you call the alpha, was on mental health medication. So in order to be prescribed that medication, somebody took him to a physician and expressed concern. The second one, I have seen documentaries with his mom talking, where she had taken him to therapy. She had they apparently they all kept all the stuff in the first one's house. So at her house there was no writings, no crazy stuff. She was trying to do the best that she could.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing she knew her son was depressed. That's why she took him to therapy.
Mm-hmm.
But there was no signs for her that there was an issue with her son,
Mm-hmm.
which brings us as parents how we need to be very careful with who our children hang out.
Yeah.
And it's a delicate balance because I was a teenager, you were a teenager,
Mm-hmm.
and when you tell a kid you can't go and hang out with so and so, that's the one they want to hang out with,
The most.
and you're the mom or the dad that doesn't understand. But then I read something recently that said try to make sure that your children are always around people who you won't mind to hang out.
Right.
So if they don't have access to people that you wouldn't necessarily hang out, nothing is perfect, but you lower the chance of having your child being with someone that doesn't share your values, that doesn't have
Mm-hmm.
the issues that you are trying to avoid on your own child.
Right. Right. We do have to be careful who we allow our children to hang out with
Mhm.
because we don't know what kind of influence
Mhm.
they're having on them.
Yep, absolutely.
The mental issues of these two shooters combined with their access to weapons and the influence that they had on each other
Mhm.
created a dangerous combination that culminated into Columbine tragedy.
Mhm.
I remember where I was that day.
Mhm.
It was in April. I know what house we were living in. I remember walking in from work and seeing it on TV,
Mhm.
and it just blew my mind. You know how you go in the house and you put your stuff in a certain place?
Mhm.
I think I went and sat in front of the chair that was closest to the TV and just put my stuff on the floor
Mhm.
because it was crazy. And then it was sad, you know? It was so sad. I do remember that one.
I don't personally remember where I was for Columbine. I was in Puerto Rico at that time, and I I heard about it, but it wasn't the same emphasis
Hmm.
there. But I've later seen a lot of documentaries and sadly too many videos
Hmm.
of the actual events,
Yeah,
and it's just heart wrenching.
it is. It is terrible. Now, the next one, Virginia Tech. That was in 2007. And the shooter shot and killed 32 people,
Mhm.
wounded 17 others before taking their own life. And this one remains the deadliest shooting in the United States
Mhm.
history,
Mhm.
period. Okay? Now, were there signs? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There were early
He
signs.
was a doc. He had a documented history of mental health problems.
Yes. Yes, he did.
He had diagnosis of severe anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
selective mutism, major depressive disorders. He was extremely shy and introverted.
Mm-hmm.
The other issue is there was a lot of bullying
Mm-hmm.
in
There
his
was.
history, and that's the other thing we need to be very aware with our kids on both sides.
Yeah.
We need to be aware if our kids are being bullied or if our children are being the bullies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that especially well at any age, because even the little ones, because of their lack of control, can
Mm-hmm.
start exhibiting some behaviors that we need to nip in the bud early.
Yeah.
Um, about how to treat each other.
Yeah. I got a house full of boys. Okay. And I see often that when they realize they got somebody scared,
Mm-hmm.
they just keep
Mm-hmm.
picking in that spot.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked in yesterday and I said, that's the little ones run through the house screaming. But you know whether it's a fun scream
Mm-hmm. Or a terrified
or
scream.
I'm scared scream.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard the I'm scared scream. So I told my other grandson, I said, when you hear him screaming a certain way, that means he's scared and you need to back off.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you're not backing off. That means you're being a bully.
Mm-hmm. Because you're having fun, but he's not having fun anymore.
You're the only one that's laughing. And now he's whimpering and he's crying. Mm-hmm. And you're continuing. You need to be aware of when he's playing, having fun, and when he's becoming scared or annoyed. And you're going to have to learn to back off.
I was watching Big Bang Theory the other day. And, Penny and Amy and Bernadette, they were talking to Penny. Penny was the pretty girl. Amy and Bernadette were kind of nerds. And they were talking about their experiences in bullying in school. When Penny said, "Oh, that never happened to me, and we were not bullies in school. We made fun of so and so, and blah 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 blah." And they looked at her and said, "You were the bully."
Yes.
And she said, "But we were all laughing." And I remember Bernadette asking Penny, "Was she laughing?" And that's a big point. Sometimes kids are cruel on purpose, and it's part of their development, sadly. But at some point, we need to teach our children, if you're hurting that other person, there's something wrong with that.
Yeah.
It's not okay.
It's not okay. And then some of the signs that was in the Virginia shooter, his teachers recognized that there was violence in his writing. And when he was in high school, it was so alarming and disturbing that they referred him to counseling in high school. Okay, so it makes you wonder, did he go?
Good question. I don't know, but one of the things that I know it has been researched about this particular case is that he fell through the cracks within the mental health system a lot.
Yeah.
So I think that particular comment means he might have attended some of it, but there was no follow-up. That's what it makes me think.
And see, he stayed isolated too. So it's like, I don't want to get to know people. I don't want them to get to know me. And my grandma used to say, an idle mind is a devil's workshop.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And when you're by yourself, okay, that's when Satan really, really, really gets busy.
Absolutely.
When you're by yourself, knowing that you don't have a support system. You don't have a group of people that you hang out with, that you can talk to. So he spent a lot of time alone.
One of the things that was discussed about him is that he would have been a candidate for involuntary admission to a hospital, and that never occurred.
He was ordered. He was declared mentally ill, and he was ordered to seek outpatient treatment. Okay, after the court found him to be a danger to himself.
That's what I'm saying. He was supposed to be in involuntary treatment and fit the criteria. My question is, who didn't follow up? Because if the court tells you you're supposed to be remanded in a mental health facility, my understanding is if you're at the court, they will take you from there. If you're at home, somebody's supposed to go pick you up. So how he did not make it to a hospital? That's the question.
Yeah. And because he did not, or someone did not follow through with his therapy, he wrote a manifesto. And he sent it to NBC News.
Yes. Yes, he did.
He showed anger, resentment. He treated himself like he was a martyr and compared his actions to those of other mass shootings. The videos and the writings were very disturbing. And he felt alienated, and he wanted to get revenge against those who had wronged him, who had bullied him. And it grew. Unfortunately, the resentment, the anger, it grew from there, and it turned into one of the biggest mass shooting in history, the biggest
Mm-hmm.
in history, because it shows that 34 people,
Mm.
32 people wounded,
No,
32 people were killed,
dead,
and 17
17
were
wounded.
wounded. Okay, that's too hard to even.
Let's move on to Sandy Hook. Before we move, we talk about the facts of Sandy Hook. I remember Sandy Hook. I remember it being winter, Christmas time. I remember being glued to the TV. The part that impacted me was there were parents in that they had set up the press in the parking lot of the school, and you had all these parents in the cold waiting to get their children. Their children were not going to come out, and it took days, from what I remember, to get some of those kids out of there.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned recently that some of them, if not all of them, couldn't even have an open casket funeral, because when you're shot with an AR-15
Or AK-47,
I don't know
whatever
about
it
whatever,
is,
it basically
pulverizes
pulverizes
you.
your head.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there was particularly a little girl that was just identified by her shoe.
Yeah, that's the one that's in Robb Elementary.
Oh, that's the Robb Elementary. Okay,
Yeah,
so I thought
her
it was
green Chuck Taylor.
That's right.
Hot
That's right.
tops.
I was
Yeah.
confused, and but I do know that some of the Sandy Hook kids had to be probably identified by DNA or something, because you couldn't tell,
Mm-hmm.
because how much damage was done to the little bodies.
Mm-hmm.
This was an elementary school.
Yeah.
These were first graders, second graders, kindergartners.
Mm-hmm.
They were babies.
Yeah.
20 children and 6 staff members were killed that day. This particular shooter had super documented history of mental health issues since he was young.
Mm-hmm.
He had been diagnosed with sensory processing disorder.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the autistic spectrum syndrome, which, let me be very clear, the fact that you're autistic or in the syndrome doesn't make you violent.
No, it doesn't.
The fact that you have mental health issues doesn't make you violent.
No, it doesn't.
But if you have mental health issues and you're violent, then something needs to be done.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a difference.
Yes.
All thumbs are fingers, but not all fingers are thumbs.
Yeah. And specifically, he was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. And these conditions made it difficult for him to relate to other people. And it contributed a lot. He would rather be by himself.
He also had anxiety and OCD, which also, if you have all these issues with relating to others and communicating with others, and on top of that you have anxiety and OCD, that will make you more of a recluse also.
Yeah.
Which I know guns is an sore issue, but in this particular case, if your child has all those issues, how do you give him access to your guns? Because he didn't break a safe to get to them. And as a matter of fact, he killed his mom before he did this shooting. So, he had issues throughout her whole life. And have all the guns you want. I'm not telling you not to have guns. But if you have guns in your house, they need to be safe and secure.
They definitely do. And when you have children,
right,
and when you have people in your house that have mental
health issues.
So,
I think that being a responsible owner is part of this problem. I don't have I have my own ideas on solutions, but I don't have a solution.
Yeah.
But I think we can start there. If you have, and I read, well, what about knives? Do we have to secure knives? If you have somebody with homicidal tendencies, maybe you do. Maybe you have to only have plastic knives in your house. How about that? Because yes, if knives are if you think somebody is in a mental health situation that could harm somebody, they could punch you against the wall or something. That I get it. But when you hear talk about weapons, people say, well, what about knives? If I have somebody in my house that is I actually did. Let me go further. I actually did. When I was married to somebody with a mental health issue that had a lot of knives, I locked up the knives.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm here talking to you, because one of his things was I have fantasies of stabbing you. So yes, and I would never had a gun in that house because I wouldn't be here talking to you.
Right.
So, yes, if you're in a house with somebody with a mental health disorder that is dangerous, yes, lock up the knives, buy plastic ones.
Mm-hmm. And he was very much interested in violence.
Mm-hmm.
And he had lack of effective treatment.
Mm-hmm.
The treatment that he got was limited.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he really needed for it to be extensive.
Right.
Um,
Which talks about access, which is one of the things we talk about a lot in this podcast is.
But the mother resisted.
Well, and that's another issue.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, I don't want my child to have a label.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. But if my child needs help, he needs help. And
But she believed that
he
her
was fine.
child could manage the conditions without extensive outside help.
Yeah.
Wow. We're going to move on. The final acts of Sandy Hook.
In the final acts, in the month leading to the shooting, he was excessively reclusive and paranoid. He had totally lost contact with the outside world, even with his mother, even though they lived in the same house.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, he killed her before the shooting. It brought up the conversation, and I still see the parents of Sandy Hook advocating for some changes.
Mm-hmm.
They have made some leeway, but not enough.
But then the question was, why would he do children? Why would he go for children? You know why? It was said that he said they were easier targets.
Well,
the little ones.
With I think, and I think we've talked about this. Well, no, it was a TikTok that I made. When I think, this is my opinion, to get to this point, and that applies to probably most murders, you have to depersonalize the other person. If you don't see the other person as a human being and you just see him as little pawns, yeah, he could see they're vulnerable. They can do anything to me. Yeah, he didn't see them as humans, as children. He just saw them as easy ways to let loose of all that resentment and anger that he had. Is it wrong? Absolutely.
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 Oh, yes. The next school.
Parkland.
Parkland.
This kid had so many issues. First of all, this kid was, and he had several contacts with law enforcement before. That's a whole nother issue as well. But he had been adopted, so it was at a young age, but he knew he was adopted. So I think that he had probably met his mom prior to the adoption or had memories of her. So he had probably more severe issues than the regular abandonment issues that an adopted child might have. His mom had helped as much as she could, but she had died recently prior to the shooting. And he was living with some
friends to finish
school.
Uh-huh.
Right. He had several diagnoses: ADHD, depression, also autism spectrum disorder, which again doesn't mean that if you have those diagnoses you're a murderer.
Right. The problem was his treatment was not consistent.
Correct.
Okay.
And nobody was really watching him in a way, because his mom had been probably doing the best she could, but then she died, and I don't know how much the new people who were taking care of him knew
about his background.
But there was some severe issues in that family, because I can't tell you how long after the shooting his brother ended up in jail for some problems as well. So they had some issues growing up, issues that were there, that were not treated, that were not looked at properly. Um, having inconsistent treatment is almost as bad as not having any at all.
Right.
So he had a lot of suicidal ideation and depression, obsessive disturbance thoughts with violence.
And guns, particularly not knives,
Right.
guns,
Right.
specifically.
Right. And like I said, there was a failure to intervene because he had several interventions with the police.
This failure in the system contributed to his ability to carry out the shooting. The shooting aftermath says that he entered
the school,
Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland. Opened fire, killing 17, injuring 17 others. Apprehended shortly afterwards. During the trial, pleaded guilty to all the charges. His mental history became a central part of the defense's argument to avoid the death penalty.
And he did.
Yeah.
He got life.
Yeah. But then the impact and the public response. Shooting led to a national outcry for better mental health care, especially in the context of preventing gun violence. But his case highlighted significant gaps in the mental health and law enforcement community in the system. And it allowed the known troubled individual to carry out such devastating acts.
I follow one of the most vocal parents of Parkland on X, Twitter, whatever it's called today. And he talks about the void of losing his daughter. And he talks about, all the things that he's trying to get done. And I think the part that breaks my heart the most is not just the pain that he's gone through, but the responses he gets to. And I think that's part of going back to the bullying situation. This man lost his daughter, not to an illness, not to a car accident. He sent her to school.
Send her to school. Valentine's Day.
Yes. And
the day that's supposed to be a day of love.
Love and friendship. Yeah. And his daughter didn't come home, and he will never come home. And there's still people so harsh to him in the way they respond to him, in the way they criticize him. And I think part of the issue we have as a society is that lack of empathy.
Yeah.
Yes, mental health is an issue. Yes, there's an issue with securing the guns. Yes. But as a society, we've become so harsh with each other. This lack of unity, this lack of empathy, your child died, oh, well, you should have done something different, or kind of shut up attitude that people have towards. I was just looking before we started recording. Him talking about how someone in power went with him while the place was still a crime scene and saw all the stuff and didn't publicize that because they didn't want to do it for publicity. They actually wanted to see the scene to see if they could do something. But because he was a politician, these people were calling him all kinds of names. He was looking at the place where his brother was murdered. He doesn't care if he was there with the janitor, the Pope, the president. He was looking at the blood of his daughter on the floor. How do you have the heart to talk bad back to this man? Where's the heart? So that's one of the things that gets me. The other thing that gets me, and I think I don't know if she is a person of faith, but talk about God doing things. There's this girl. I'm not sure what her name is, but when I've seen her talk several times, and it was a miracle, literally, that she's alive. I think I know her name, but I don't want to say it because I don't want to make a mistake. And she had been shot. It had been so long, um, while they got help to her. They had evacuated her classroom, and she was not moving. And they had classified her as dead. And if they would have walked out and waited to clear out the dead bodies, she would have died.
Yep.
But for some grace of God, that either she made a movement or a sound, something very minuscule, they realized, oh my God, she is alive. And they were able to take her to the hospital, do the surgeries, and she's alive. And as a parent, that still freaks me out because, okay, she didn't die. What if she hadn't made that sound, that noise, that gas, that whatever she did when they had already declared her dead? She would have died.
Yeah.
And me as a parent, I would not have had my child back home.
Right.
So, that one is one of the most recent ones because this happened on 2021.
November.
No, February.
I'm sorry, February 14th.
2018. 2018. So it's pretty recent, and and the good thing is majority of the victims have stayed very vocal. So it is still out there, but that was a really
that was terrible.
Terrible.
I mean, there's nothing else you could say. Is when you see this, it's terrible. The next one.
Okay.
Oxford High School. This is the one, I guess, what my grandma would call the straw that broke the camel's back. Because
for the parents, yes.
They convicted the parents.
Yes.
Because they realized that the parents were aware.
Yes.
And did nothing. I think the parents came in that morning for a meeting with the counselor.
Yes.
And they left him at school and they walked out.
Yes. Yes. No secret. I'm a true crime person, and I watched this particular case from top to bottom. The story is, this kid has some issues documented for a while. The parents got him a gun for Christmas, if I'm not mistaken, and the mom took him shooting at a range, and they posted on social media how proud they were of the kid and stuff. Days prior, the kid had been browsing something on his phone about bullets. The school notified the parents. Mom says, next time you have to hide better.
Yeah, don't get caught.
Then, I think it was either a math homework or test, but I just remember it being math. He drew a picture of the exact gun he had at home. That one that they had given him. And the school didn't know that he had that gun. So a lot of people are, well, why did nobody look through his bag? They didn't know he had a gun. The school doesn't have metal detectors. But he made some remarks on the picture that were disturbing. They called the parents. The parents came to the school. Mom was really pissed off to be at school because she had to get back to work, even though her boss later talked that she could have worked from home the next of the day. One of her excuses for not taking him home was, well, he didn't do well at home during COVID. Nobody asked you to take the kid for the rest of the semester. It was for that day. It was for the rest of the day until you could get him help. Now, I can see from the mom's standpoint that she could not have thought that he was going to kill anybody. The part that I can see is how she didn't think that her son was going to kill himself. Because from what I saw, the picture that he drew and the comments that he was making, my impression was he was suicidal, which would have freaked me out even more.
Yeah.
My child's about to kill. And then they told him to get him help. And they said they would. They recommended that he went home. I don't know I haven't dealt with public schools here. If it's a policy that the school can tell them you have to take them home, but they didn't do that. The school, I just told them you should. That was an Uber driver, which he could have even taken the kid in the Uber drive with him and take him home, but he didn't. And so, long story short, they let him stay in the school.
And he went back to class with a backpack.
I was gonna say nobody checked the gun.
Yeah.
Which was the other thing. If you drew that gun, you would have thought, well, where is it? The alleged safe where the gun was in the house was just a box that had no lock or key. They did have a lock, but it was brand new in the package with the bag and everything. They hadn't even set it up. So he had free access to it. There is I can't say if this was a fact or not. So, but there's a conversation about the night before him having an argument with the mom, and the mom locked him out of the house or something to that effect. He had very few friends, and his closest friend had just moved out of the same school or out of town. So the person who he was actually interacting with the most was not there either. So again, he was isolated. He was a loner. He had very limited interaction. He had a lot of online interaction, most of it violent. Again, parents, you need to look at what your kids are watching.
Yes.
He had made online posts talking about violence and guns. So, yeah, after the parents went home or the other one went to work, he decided to take his frustrations out into...
They end up killing 4 students. And then 7 others were wounded.
Yes.
They say he was apprehended without incident, but he was charged as an adult.
He pled guilty as well.
Yeah.
And he's gonna...
First-degree murder and other related charges. Okay?
And
but
both of his parents, we're going to get there, are serving time in jail for second-degree manslaughter. Because, and I think they're serving, I can't remember if it was 15 or 30 years, for giving their son access to the gun.
And knowing that he had issues mentally.
Right.
Knowing this. Okay?
Right. Now I know where you want to get to the next one. Because that's my explosive one. This is when it gets personal to me. And it's Robb Elementary. You and I were talking yesterday about this episode, and no secret, I'm a homeschooler. And anybody who would ask me why I homeschool is Robb Elementary.
And I'm a homeschooler too.
I made you one.
She forgets we're together, but we're both homeschoolers.
But this is when it started.
I know.
This is when it started.
I know.
And the child is still not of quote unquote school age. He's 3. But the decision has been made that he's going to be homeschooled. For those saying, well, you're talking about all those loners, homeschooling doesn't mean isolation and lack of socialization. I have to record between his multiple events because he has a social calendar.
Yes, he does.
He has 2 best friends at the age of 3. So I think he is socialized. I'm not concerned. But
I'm not concerned.
I'm not concerned either. But I remember this day. He was 15 months old. He was walking already, baby, running around. The news comes of Robb Elementary. And this one hit different because, again, all these have affected me as a person.
Yes.
As a counselor.
Yes.
This time I was a parent.
Yep.
And I'm a parent with a child that eventually has to go to school. And it was an elementary school, which already messed me up because that's the first level of school the kids go. Sandy Hook was 2, which was the other one that hit me. But again, I hadn't had to make personal decisions for a child. At that point, at Robb Elementary, I did have a child of my own to make decisions for. And I saw the mom that went through a window to rescue her kids and some others, and how she had been
restrained. She was held back,
trying to get to her kids while the cops didn't do their job.
Right.
That day, I was in my sofa bawling. This was an 18-year-old gunman who killed 19 kids and 2 teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And the scrutiny of the acts are still being dealt with.
Yeah.
Some folks are still on trial right now or about to be.
Yeah.
He had a history of issues. Didn't he shoot his grandma that morning too? Before he went out? Yes, because that was the problem. He shot his grandma. The cops were called to the grandma house. He ran out. He basically sought refuge in the school that shouldn't have been open,
Mm-hmm.
and then went into shooting the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And
he was also bullied in school.
Right.
Because he had a stutter and a lisp.
Okay. He was 18. Mm-hmm. In this case, it was not access as much as he bought it his own. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was 18, so he had access to buy a legal gun. But he did have warning signs. Mm-hmm. He had made threats online, posted pictures of guns and ammunitions, had told an acquaintance about his plans for violence. Mm-hmm. But nobody took the time to report it. And that day, I remember looking at the little one and I said, "You're never stepping foot on a public school."
Right. Yes, she did.
And I told everybody that would listen. I didn't ask, "What do you think about homeschooling?" Mm-hmm. I said, he is going to be homeschooled. Now, to people who might say you're being too much and over the top, he could be shot at the gym. He could be shot at a game. Could be shot at church, at the mall, at the grocery shopping, right next to you. That's true. Mm-hmm. At least I'm going to do everything I can to protect my child. Mm-hmm. And since the education system has some issues of their own when they're not paying teachers enough, they're leaving the profession, they're hiring janitors to do classes. Let me try not to be too rash, but they're hiring unqualified people to do classes and teach. Mm-hmm. And the teachers are actually making curriculums for homeschoolers. I think we will be okay. And yes, I dragged you into the homeschooling part.
Yep, she did.
Which gets us to why we decided to do this episode.
Yeah. The reason why we decided to do this episode about a month ago, I'm still in bed that morning, and my daughter burst in my room. And she said that my grandson's school was under lockdown for an active shooter. I cannot describe everything that my daughter had in her arms. I cannot.
Let's just say she left the house not properly dressed.
And
ready to take a shooter down herself.
She was ready.
Yeah.
She and his stepdad were ready to, by any means necessary.
Yes.
Okay?
Like any pirate would do.
So I'm in the living room just praying and thinking about all kind of stuff and thinking about how bad I feel when I hear about others. But now it's in my backyard.
In your living room.
In my living room. In my house. So this hit hard. Found out it was
a false alarm.
A false alarm. That something that the teachers wear. I think when they match it one time, the principal is supposed to come. But when they match it twice,
it's a lockdown.
There's a light that comes on. I think a yellow light that comes on. And the kids know to get under their desk.
Mhm.
I got to stop right here.
Mhm.
I've become, when I grew up in school,
Mhm.
we only had 2 drills.
Mhm.
Fire drill, tornado.
I didn't even have tornadoes because I don't think we've ever had a tornado in Puerto Rico. We
Alabama,
had fire.
fire drill, tornado. Never had a drill for active shooter.
Never.
But now every school is required to have an active shooter drill.
Let me tell you more. In the 90s, I worked at an elementary school in the middle of what we would consider the projects. And we didn't have active shooter drills.
So you're in the middle of the projects, what, probably gangbangers?
That's what I'm. Oh yeah, drugs, gangs and stuff. Absolutely, no. We knew the kids of the gang bangers and the drug dealers were in the school, in the elementary school, because I promise you, it was all the buildings and the school was in the middle
of the community.
Like when there was gonna be some problems, they would call the school and said, "Send the kids out early. There might be some problems later."
Mm-hmm.
We knew, but our kids were. We never had to do those drills.
Mm-hmm.
Never. And if there was going to be a problem, they would park themselves near the school to make sure that all the personnel was out safe. Kind of like a mafia type thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But we never had those drills.
I
never.
know in the projects that I would have to drive through to get to my grandparents' house. Mm-hmm. You knew the drug dealer? Mm-hmm. Because on that particular project, the windows were black on the apartment. Mm-hmm. And then you had a coupe de ville sitting out front. Mm. Now, mind you, these projects are supposed to be for women with children on food stamps, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But who in the project need a coupe de ville? Okay, we're not even going to.
That's a whole other podcast.
But yeah, Uvalde was the one that made Naty decide that our little one was not going to school. He was going to be homeschooled. Mm-hmm.
Well, the issue I had with the false alarm, which is what we were talking about, was the way the school treated the issue.
They treated it like,
oh well,
it was nothing. Oh, it was a false. You got parents running into the school saying, "My child called me whispering under his desk,"
thinking that there's an active shooter in the school. Mm-hmm. That means that child in this moment is fearing for his or her life.
I'm not gonna make it.
Right.
I'm not gonna make it back home. I'm not gonna make it to the bus this evening.
And we're talking about middle schoolers.
Middle schoolers, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. Mm-hmm. And she goes to the school. They said, "Oh, it's just false alarm." What have you told the kids?
Because the kids didn't
Because my son is still calling me, and he's hyperventilating under his desk. Mm-hmm. Said false alarm. Teacher hit it too many times, accidentally, whatever. So my daughter and son come back home, but they're not happy. And when she told me that my grandson was hyperventilating under his desk, I said, "Go get it. Mm-hmm. Go check him out." She checked him out. She brought him home.
It took them forever to check them out because they didn't want to get the kids, because it was a false alarm. Why you need to get the kids out? Really?
But they didn't realize that not only did my grandson call his parents,
everybody did. The kids,
other kids called their parents. So when my daughter checked my grandson out and she said she's coming out of school, droves of parents coming in the parking lot, you can hear on 2 wheels, mm-hmm. whatever. Forget to put the car in park, mm-hmm.
Right.
Coming to get their children.
Again, my biggest issue with this particular incident was the aftermath. I think, my opinion, even though, thank God, nothing happened.
Thank you, Jesus.
You should have gotten all these kids and say, okay, this was a very nerve-wracking situation. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about it. Mm-hmm. Let's see what we learned about it. Mm-hmm. Did we do right by the drill? Did we, how do you feel? What did you, because how do you expect me after I thought 5 minutes ago that somebody was going to pull up through that door and end my life, that I'm going to go into algebra just like nothing had happened.
Right.
How am I going to tell you about the next chemistry formula when I'm still shaking in my boots?
Right.
And don't tell me, oh, the kids are too soft. No, right now, it's a reality. These kids are dying.
The reality is, you can get on the bus and go to school this morning
And not come home.
and be in the morgue by the afternoon or evening.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's not good.
And here comes the worst part. That 2 weeks after that false alarm, 5 miles from that school,
I'd say a 30-minute drive.
comes Appalachia High School. And
that's the day we were in the airport.
We were in the airport, and we hear there's a school shooting 30 minutes from
right up the highway from us.
So that one was a false alarm. This one was.
This one was not.
It was in our county. Alarm. It was in a school very close to home, where people that we know attended. And that one had 4 people dead, 2 teachers and 2 students.
And it was a 14-year-old student who did the shooting.
With mental health issues documented, with interventions from the cops before.
Yeah, the year before.
Right.
He had put something on
online.
Social media. And they came and talked to him, not only him, but his parents, about what he did. You know, I guess we'll make sure it never happens again, blase, blase. And this is what happened. Now, his father
is facing
charges. I think the reason why his mother is not, because they were separated. There was also an issue of domestic violence in their home. So the mother had left the home.
Right.
I think with a couple of kids, but the boy was still with his dad.
Plus, and again, this one is more recent, so we don't know all the details.
Please don't say Christmas again.
What did I say, Christmas?
He bought him that gun for
Christmas too.
Yes.
Yeah, we need to buy. But do we need to put a list out of different Christmas presents to buy teenagers? No, what I was going to say is he texted his mom something, and mom alerted the school.
Yeah.
Saying, go
check on my son. There's an emergency.
And apparently the school didn't think that it was something like that. And
that's because she did not tell them
what it was.
The details that they needed. They could have put school on lockdown right then and there.
Like I said, I don't have the details of that phone call, so I can't. I know there was a phone call, but I don't know if she got through the call and it was a voice. I don't know the details of that, so I can't speak on
All
that.
I know is I heard 30 minutes later.
Yeah, he was shooting. Yeah. Like I said, to each his own, everybody makes their own personal decisions. I made the decision to homeschool mine, and that 13-year-old that was in the false alarm, we are in conversations to probably do the same for him.
Well, he did not go to school the next day. They brought him home. Oh,
with a panic attack.
And when they brought him home, he was in the middle of a panic attack, and Grandma me had to give him breathing therapy for him to calm down. He didn't go to school Friday, but he did decide over the weekend, I want to go back on Monday. He went back on his own on Monday. There was a discussion about possibly homeschooling him.
That's still.
But because he's been in school the whole time, you know, he's probably thinking about his friends and he's going to miss them, what's going on. And I understand that. That's a child.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he was the one who brought up homeschooling. We didn't tell him, we're homeschooling you because of this. He brought it up. So we are in discussions of that. Final decision has not been made. If the decision is made, we have another homeschooler in the house.
Yeah, that'll be 3 instead of 2.
Yeah.
Because we have a preschooler, a 12th grader,
And now with the middle school, we
And
got the
now
whole
middle
school.
schooler.
What are the common denominators in these?
Mental health, severe mental health struggles.
They all had documented histories of mental health, including depression, anxiety, social isolation, severe conditions like psychopathy, selective mutism, severe social anxiety, and autism. Being clear that having those diagnoses doesn't mean you're dangerous or prone to violence.
Right.
There were other factors like
untreated and or inadequate addressing the issues.
Meaning that despite the presence of mental health problems, many of them did not receive the adequate treatment they needed or support, and that the school, the mental health professionals, and even their families, didn't do what they were supposed to do. Another thing that they have in common:
social isolation. Oh yeah, I put a little too many.
Yeah, too many words in there.
Social isolation. Yes.
Several of them experienced significant social isolation and desperation. They felt like outcasts, or they have been bullied, which in turn contributed to their anger and their desire for revenge. They also had an obsession with
guns, violence, guns.
They had a fascination also with mass killings.
Yeah. So like they're looking up to the person, they're idolizing
the Appalachian one had fascination with the Parkland, and there's so there is documentation of them being like, they think that's a good thing. There were warning signs, Jesus, ignored.
Warning signs.
Thank you.
Loneliness, alienation, obsession with violence. The warning signs, the red flags that were overlooked.
Writings, drawings, or direct threats. The behavioral issues. In school and at home.
Resulting in expulsion or disciplinary actions in school.
Absolutely. Easy access to guns.
That's my problem. I am not a kind of person that said everybody's guns need to be taken away. No. Me personally, I've never held a real gun.
Your husband will be the first one fighting you. He has his own personal arsenal.
Right. I have not shot a real gun. I'm 60 years old. Never. Okay? He did start talking to me recently. He said he's going to take me to the gun range.
And I want to learn. I told you that too.
So he's going to take us to the gun range. So that I can learn how to use a firearm properly if I have to.
Right.
Okay? I will not be going out shooting deers and stuff like that. This would only be for protection.
Right. Which is what guns are supposed to be. Only for protection.
Only for protection. And I remember...
Well, and hunting if you're doing it for food. But that's a whole different story.
I remember when my children moved into my house, with my grandchildren, see, when it was just the two of us there, no problem. But when the children moved back in the house, we had to do a major move of firearms. Okay? And we had to put them in a place that we knew that the kids would not get to them.
Right.
So that's being responsible.
And that is the main thing for me with the guns is the whole issue of the security of those guns. I'm watching a trial right now about a 14-year-old that killed her mom and attempted to kill her stepdad. And let's talk about the gun per se. She pulled the gun from under the mattress. It was not in a case. It was not in a locked drawer. She just pulled it out of the mattress. She pulled a Magnum, whatever, because I don't know about guns. But it was a Magnum type of gun. It was a revolver.
I'm pretty sure it'd make a big impact with the name Magnum on it.
I don't know about guns, but my vision of a Magnum is the gun that Rick used in The Walking Dead. He was a cop, and it was this big gun with a big barrel. If I'm wrong, y'all can correct me. I don't know the next thing about guns, but that's when I think of a Magnum, that's what I think of.
Okay.
And because I think it was a revolver,
Mhm.
and she said he had 6 bullets. So I'm thinking that's what it would be. Again, that's my imagination. I'm sure a lot of our listeners are going to correct me on all of that, but I'm okay with that. But the thing is,
The point is the
it was
easy
under,
access.
it was loaded
Yeah,
under the mattress,
under the mattress, and
and
she knew where it was, so
you know,
she went
and
right
you
to
see
it.
the video where the mom is already in the house. She goes to the bedroom, and it takes her less than a minute to come back with her hand in the back. So she just basically went bloop, walked over there, shot mom 3 times in the head. There are mental issues there. Again, that's a whole nother podcast by itself. But again, access.
But and then again, another one. Everybody that purchases a gun legally should not be purchasing a gun.
Yes. I do believe in red flags. I believe in background checks and evaluations.
Mhm.
I believe, especially if somebody has, and I don't know if this. I know it's not a law everywhere, but it should be. Domestic violence perpetrators should all not have
Not
access
have
to
access to
guns.
weapons. No.
So yeah, I think that everybody who should have a gun should have a gun if they want to, as many as they want to,
And being
as
responsible
long
with
as they
them.
are responsible. Because I think that the access is going to uh, limiting access is especially to children
Mhm.
is going to make an impact in this number of cases, especially the school shootings. I mean, adults have more access, and because they're adults, they might have no issue before. So when the background check they pass, I get that.
Mhm.
But a 14-year-old should not have easy free access to a gun.
Mm-mm.
15-year-old should not have free access.
I know you said probably say, well, you're old. When I was in school and you have a problem with somebody,
You punch him in the
you
face.
fight, okay? And then you walk away. You may
Yeah.
not like them or hate them, but
Yeah,
nobody ever brought guns to
the
school.
whole meet you at 3 o'clock. We'll fight. Everybody,
Now,
and then you walk away.
now nobody fights.
No.
They just automatically go for the gun. The little boy that was on the bus the other day showing his gun to the other kids, and somebody told, and he was taken, and the gun was taken as soon as he got off the bus at school.
Right here, Discovery Mills, or now Sugarloaf Mills, at the Busters, a teenager from high school went out, had a conversation with some kids. The conversation didn't go well, but it didn't get to punches or anything. It was a verbal argument. 2 of the kids went away. They came back, shot the kid. The kid's dead. And they were all high schoolers.
High school.
And they didn't even know each other.
So they had the weapon in the car.
Probably, yeah. When I'm telling you they went away, don't telling you they went home or something. They probably have it in the car. The kid came outside for some. I don't know the details, but even if it was a fight, I know there was an argument. One of them walked away, came back, and then shot. They didn't know each other. That was the first day they met. I don't know if it was over the parking spot, over some. It couldn't have been something that made if they didn't even know each other.
You know what?
Not that you have any reason to kill somebody else, but you know
no
what I'm saying.
It doesn't matter.
That's
It
what I'm
doesn't
saying.
matter what it was over.
Right, but that they didn't even know each other. They crossed words for some reason, and one of them pulled a gun. The kid's dead.
End up dead.
And he was a bright student, top of the class, good in sports, whole life ahead.
And we're not even talking about all the other places that we have had mass shootings, grocery stores, churches. We're just focusing right now
on the schools.
School
The minors.
shootings.
Minors with access to guns.
Okay? But now you can't even say, well, I can go to the grocery store and I'll be fine because you're not guaranteed. It's like every time you walk out of your house, you're really playing Russian roulette because you don't know if it's going to happen to you.
And staying home is not the idea
And
because
staying
somebody
home.
shoots around, it comes through the wall.
That's true. There have been people that have been in their home, minding their own business, and they were killed.
I told you about this girl that she broke up with this kid, teenagers again, and the apparently there was some domestic issues. He was violent with her and abusive, so she broke up the relationship. He jumped into the backyard, shot into the wall of her bedroom
where he knew her room was,
knowing where her bed was, and the bullet went straight through the wall, hit her in the head, and died, and killed her. So yeah, why was that kid having access to a gun? Like I said, adults, that's a whole nother podcast, that's a whole nother conversation. But kids, why are kids having access to guns? Why are kids not having the proper mental health screenings and treatment? Why there's no more access for them? We want to make a better future. If we don't start with the present, we're not going to get there.
Right. It's got to get better. It's got to get better because this keeps happening.
It's only going to get worse.
This is not good at all. And we covered this because of the importance. And people, we got to watch the signs. You do not have to be a college graduate. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to see the signs. Okay? And just putting the wolf in the chicken coop, that's not good. That's not good at all.
I think, and we can talk about that again. That's a whole nother podcast. Parenting, it's different now. And I'm not talking about the whole gentle parenting method versus old school parenting. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about not all parents, but there's a disconnect in the way people parent. There was an argument this morning on social media where a lady said, I don't have kids, but I have about 150 of them because I'm a teacher. And a lot of people attacked her and said, well, that's not your job. Your job is not to raise the kids, it's to educate them. That's true. Well, listen to all the teachers who say, we call you all the time to tell you what's wrong with your kid. You don't come to the meetings. Sometimes my kid failed school and the school never called me. Lies. They called you, they send you a letter, they send you emails. You ignored it. Right now, there is a part of the population of kids, and like I said, it's a part of the population, not everybody, who's being raised by the TV, by social media, by their friends, by their school, and not their parents.
And there is a big influence. Social media. Media, period. And culture. We're talking media and culture. Media glorification of violence. Okay? And then the culture impact. Persuasive nature of violence in media and culture might have contributed to these individuals.
Right.
Desensitization. Being desensitized.
Which is what I was telling you. When you start forgetting that the other person is a human being, that is the first step at not valuing their humanity.
Right.
And once the person loses once you don't think that the other person is human, you don't care what you do to them.
No, you really don't.
Because once you don't think they're human, you don't think about their feelings. You don't feel about their pain. You don't think that they deserve empathy and that they don't hurt and that, you just don't care.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the biggest issues that we're having as a society as a whole is the desensitization, is the fact that, it's you versus me. If you don't agree with me, you're not human. You're one of them. You're not one of us, even though we were all created equal as a person. We're all humans. But if you are different somehow, speak different, are different, pray different, then you're not human anymore. And that's part of the problem. If you're feeding your children hatred for other people, what do you think they're going to do?
It's going to grow, number one.
It's going to explode somewhere. When you tell your child that somebody, because they're different than you,
Mhm.
is bad,
Mhm.
and it's bad and it's bad, they're going to react badly to that person or
Mhm.
to those people or to that group of people.
Mhm.
And when you are not teaching your children nothing, but is society teaching them, or is social media teaching them, or is the TV teaching them certain values, then you can't say, where did he get that from, if you were not there doing your job as a parent.
Right.
So I think, again, shootings, there's a whole conversation to be had. But when it comes to school shootings per se and the violence in schools, um, as parents, we need to look at what we have to do ourselves. One, to make our children safe, but also to make sure that our children are not the next victim, but also not the next perpetrator. These discussions are heavy, but they are really necessary. Mental issues have contributed to these tragedies are complex, but we can't ignore them. As a community, we need to be vigilant, supportive, and proactive in addressing these needs and those who are struggling.
Absolutely. Prevention starts with awareness, education, and compassion. Let's continue to advocate for better mental health care and responsible actions that could save lives.
We thank you for joining us today on this important episode of Thrive by the Rising Mew. Remember, if you know somebody who's struggling with mental health issues, don't hesitate to reach out for help. Let's work together to create a safer and more supportive environment for everyone.
And remember, if you're experiencing a mental health crisis, please dial 988. If a loved one or someone you know is experiencing a mental health crisis, dial 911 or take them to the nearest emergency room so that they can get help. Until next time, be well and stay blessed.
And don't forget to thrive. Have a blessed day. Bye bye.